Hi everyone, my name is Jason Koo. Today I want to show you how to use BAMl to generate graph-compatible JSON data. There are a number of different data formats that are graph JSON compatible. There's some listed here: JSON LD, JSON Graph, and Cytoscape JSON. I'm going to focus on Cytoscape JSON because Cytoscape is not only quite versatile, it's very human readable. You'll notice in edges, the source and target values are going to be the IDs of any two nodes. Once you have information in a Cytoscape JSON format, you can then make use of Cytoscape's packages and libraries to visualize very awesome looking graph visualizations and other display options here. Also, if you happen to be working with Network X, which is a very popular Python library for working with graph data, it has APIs for exporting and importing JSON data in Cytoscape's format. Lastly, if you happen to be working with Streamlit or building a Streamlit app, you have not just one, but you have two Cytoscape plugins or components that you can add to visualize or interact with graph data. All right, so let's jump in and I'll show you how to wire this all up in Cursor. But first, I'm going to make use of BAML's own BAMl AI chat, which is a beta feature. And here I'm just going to ask it to build out all the BAMl source files for me to start with. All right, at cursory glance, this looks pretty good. Yeah, just gonna copy all this. So I'm gonna put this into Windsurf this time because I ran out of free credits in Cursor. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new BAMl source file. Let's call this graph BAMl, graphs BAMl, and I'll paste that code in here. Cytoscape node here. This should actually be more like the data payload, because the class itself from the spec just needs this data payload nested inside. Same with the edge, and we'll do this. Great, source target. This also should have an ID, so let's copy this over. Oop, yep. Cytoscape graph, great. So this should work. Oh, I'm going to change this from Anthropic to one of the models I have internally set up from last time, Ollama 3. And that's listed in the clients.baml file, again, right here. Okay, graphs. This looks like it should work. And I can run tests right here, right inside Windsurf. And let's close Cascades for now. Don't need this because I'm running Ollama. So this was great. The BAML's AI tool actually wrote some generic text that I could use for a test. And we can see here, ooh, kind of see here. Output here, JSmith. I'm gonna close this and wire this up to an app. Let's create a new app here. I'll bring Cascades back up. Okay, that's interesting. So here, I don't know what's with the code formatter. Let me just ask if it can fix it. Rewrite this. Okay, I'll insert this. Pull in my dependencies. Let's review this code. Here we go. And just double check that we're calling the right object here, Cytoscape. Cascades added extra elements that are not part of that API call. It's too bad that didn't show up in the autocomplete. Here we go. Okay, got text with funny coloring. Let's see if I switch it over to light. Yeah, not much better. Let's wire this up with the BAML code. We're going to, let's just comment this out. Yeah, that's nice. kind of broke this up into a couple elements. Okay, so let's just insert the whole thing and then I'll review it. st-cystoscape. So, oh, this is nice. Okay, so this little function here is just going to take it from the default Cytoscape format and convert it to that, just that giant mashed list of data. Okay, so this took a little while. So what kept happening here was the graph would appear and then immediately disappear, and it's because Streamlit, I forget, always kind of runs through this top-down script approach, so it's always kind of resetting or rerunning the script. So once the graph data was extracted, I need to actually put this into like a session state to maintain. And then if that session state has elements, to always render this graph. Let me walk through the amended code here. So here, import statements, bringing in the BAMl functions here, setting page layout to Y, just like making more use of the screen real estate. So I moved the process graph result above. The main function is here initializing the elements session state. So if it's not currently spun up, it'll create an empty list. And then we got a user input for the text area and a button for extracting the network graph. This is, we'll call the BAMl function, and then it will call that earlier function that takes the separate nodes and edges and puts it into one list. And then we store it into the session state. And then here, this is just a default style sheet. And then we're calling the Cytoscape component to display the graph. And when you run this, you now get this. So we get a nice rendered interactive graph visualization thing, graph visualization widget. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I hope that was useful for everyone. Anyways, happy coding. Have a great one, and I'll see you in the next one.